da da. Domo arigato, geek to me radio. Da 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 da.
Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new episode of Geek to Me Radio. Tonight, we have a full show. First up, festival director Ryan Cooper talks about the 50th anniversary of St. Charles Christmas traditions. After that, we have my interviews with Dave Annable talking about season 2 of Lioness and Academy Award-winning actor Mira Sorvino. All that and more. Stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And if you're driving around the greater St. Louis area tonight listening to us on the Big 550 KTRS, hello to all of you out there. If you are streaming us on YouTube or Facebook, hello to all of you watching. And of course, as always, if you're hearing us after the fact in the podcast form or whatever platform you do listen to your podcast, we appreciate you finding us there and subscribing. It's a little frantic. I just got back from doing a bunch of stuff out in St. Charles, so I'm still kind of getting my legs under me as far as the show goes. If I seem a little disorganized, that's because I am. But that's all right, because helping me out, my first guest is joining me. You've heard him on the show before. Hopefully I got that title right. Festival director for St. Charles Christmas Traditions and for Legends and Lanterns. I think all the other festivals, there's the Valentine's Day Festival as well. Ryan Cooper joins us once again. How are you?
Well, thank you, Mr. Enstall. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. And as you mentioned, St. Charles, we're slowly taking over all the holidays. So Arbor Day, look out.
I'm looking forward to the Groundhog's Day thing you do, where we have the holiday armadillo doing double duty at Christmas and that holiday as well. That'd be great.
Yes.
So this is the 50th anniversary. I know a lot of thought had to have been going into this one because last Thursday, I believe, you dropped the documentary, kind of behind the scenes making of how, as you like to say, how the sausage is made. So that kicked the whole thing off, and that itself was quite an undertaking, I'm sure.
That's right. So, we've been thinking ahead, knowing that this anniversary was sort of, looming on the horizon of the ways to really kind of celebrate it in a meaningful way, because this festival means a lot to a lot of people. And I think one of the earliest thoughts that we had of celebrating the season was to do a documentary, not only to track the, history and evolution of the event, but it's one of those things that people who come to the event, they think we just flip a switch and then all of a sudden, Main Street becomes Christmasified and you have all these characters and attractions, and they think it just kind of happens. And we said, there are 103 people who are involved in making the festival a reality each year. And we said we want to kind of honor the people who make it happen. And for the first time ever, the documentary also covers the whole 11-month process behind the scenes, from auditions to rehearsals to decorating the street to creating scenic elements and props and all of that, just to kind of let people know just the tip of the iceberg of what it takes to produce what is now one of the most beloved and largest growing and biggest attended Christmas festivals in the entire country.
And this opening weekend, just the snow kind of just added to that little element of the Christmas season out there. It was, I think, probably the first time we've had snow on opening weekend. Gosh, I'm going to say 8 years at least.
Oh, I think so, absolutely. And it's, those of us who have been around for a while with the festival will tell you that snow is the most magical thing with it, because first of all, you have historic Main Street that looks, most of those buildings are from the 1840s, And so you have the brick streets and the gas lamps and all this old, gingerbread house-looking architecture that's beautiful enough on its own. And then you add that layer of snow, and when it snows, outside gets real quiet and calm, and it's just incredible. And then you see Ebenezer Scrooge and the Sugar Plum Fairy and Victorian carolers, having a snowball fight. It's just really incredible. In the past few years, we haven't had much snow at all during the event. So the fact that during this year we had it in the opening weekend really just added an extra layer that just made it feel like the holidays a little bit more.
Somehow, I never understood this, and I thought about it when this happened this weekend. It's not as cold when it snows. Like today was almost colder than when it snowed the previous day, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating how that works, but I think it's part of that whole magic, just kind of enchantment of the snow falling, and the snowball fights do give us a bit of a workout, so that does keep us a little bit warmer. But yeah, there is just something about kind of living within the giant snow globe that just kind of helps you forget, the fact that you can't feel your toes.
And we've got some chats coming in. Shannon Musler said, Ryan is epic. So, Ryan, you've got a fan out there.
Oh, my gosh, Shannon, thank you.
Zachary Nathanson says, when I said it was the 50th anniversary, I thought we were going to mention Genesis's magnum opus, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. No, not a Genesis 50th anniversary, but the 50th anniversary of Christmas traditions. Sherry Barnard says, can't wait to see you guys next weekend. So we've got people coming next weekend as well. And again, this is a shorter season, we should point out, because this only runs for 3 actual weekends, which is odd.
Right. I was just talking to someone a little bit ago because Thanksgiving, we always open the day after Thanksgiving. And since Thanksgiving was so late this year, that kind of chopped a weekend off. So, yeah, it's crazy to think that after next weekend, we will be halfway through our entire 50th season. But, there's still, fear not, there is still plenty of time to come out and check out all the free, wonderful things that the festival has to offer. And I think that we're going to have a busy few weeks coming up on our hands with people who are, crawling out of the snow and looking for something festive to do.
And Catherine Levin says, love James and Ryan. Stephanie Holman says, everyone and everything is just magical. I think she means out in St. Charles. Either that or she's on some really good pills right now, and that's good for Stephanie. And Stephen Holman says, no business like snow business. No, the snow adds such a cool element to what goes on out there. And obviously, we have Jack Frost and Susie Snowflake to blame for that, I feel.
Oh, absolutely. They're always causing trouble like that, seasons freezings and all that jazz.
Now, the special events, too, because some people think, oh, that's really cool, they're doing these on the weekends, but there's the special ticketed events that go on as well. Talk a little bit about those if people want to get more out of their Christmas traditions experience, what these events are and how they can take part.
Right. So we have the next 3 Sunday evenings. So immediately after the festival ends, we have these sort of special themed events that allow people to kind of extend their festival stay and enjoy a kind of different element. So next Sunday at the Foundry Art Center, we will kick off our first specialty dining experience, which is what we call Holidays Around the World. It's an international dessert tasting experience. So one of the, great things about Christmas traditions is you get to meet international gift givers, all these different Santa figures from different cultures and countries from around the world. So we'll have a nice collection of those international gift givers at the Foundry. You can go around, have a little passport that'll get stamped, and try an actual classic holiday dessert from those countries. So you can meet Père Noël from France and have a little slice of Yule log cake, or you can go see Father Christmas and have a little bit of a fruit cake, which for some people may consider it a punishment rather than a joy, but at least you'll have the opportunity for that experience. So we'll have that next Sunday. The following Sunday will be our first Naughty versus Nice night, where half of the Foundry will be taken over by Victorian Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus and the Sugar Plum Fairy and the Nutcracker Prince, and then of course the other half half will be transformed into this alpine grog hall for Krampus and all the naughty international characters from European lore who are a little bit, naughtier. And then our final Sunday will close with our Live from Freezer's Palace Cabaret with Jack Frost and friends. We'll have Melton John there. We'll have Celine Frion. We'll have Snow Cone Capone, allowing you to spin the wheel at the Snopa Cabana Casino for a chance to win a prize. And then we'll have DJ Axel Froze, who will take everyone through a fun dance party. So it's just a fun way to connect with some of your favorite characters. We'll also have specialty characters that only appear during these events. And, it's just a special way to kind of put a cherry on top of the cake of the 50th season.
Trisha Sowers in the chats gives us a blue heart and a red heart. I'm assuming the blue heart is for you. Red heart must be for me. We have Ian Thomas Harden says, we are Viking great in all caps. I think we know what that means. Play on words. We can say Viking great on the radio. And the Nostalgic Podblast, our friend Chance from down in Atlanta says, fruitcake, not a strong selling point, LOL. Which, again, it's not for everyone, but it depends on how you make it. If it's soaked enough in brandy, I'll eat anything. So there's that.
There you go. Well, those are some wonderful comments. I love to hear from all those folks. But I promise we have a lot more than fruitcake. We'll have sweet potato pie. We'll have hot spiced cider. We'll have gingerbread. I mean, come on, what gets more Christmas than German gingerbread, right? So hopefully we'll claw some viewers back after the fruitcake comment.
And I'm curious too, because you mentioned hot cider. If I'm not mistaken, you have the 8 Maids of Milken out there selling wassail. The anniversary cups, the 50th anniversary cups, sold out already, correct?
They did. We had 250 of these special 50th anniversary tin wassail cups that we thought, at some point would sell out during the season, but we never thought that by the end of the second day of the weekend will be sold out. But it tells you people are clamoring for, mementos of this season. And then we also just have really incredible wassail cider. We have some wonderful people who make it and cook up that recipe and are working hard to provide that for our guests. And it's a real nice, taste of the past because it's a classic Victorian beverage, and we introduced it just a couple years ago to the festival, and it went over like hotcakes, no pun intended. And so people are clamoring for a little bit of that 50th.
And not just the cups. If you're like, oh man, I missed out, but there's other things. There's ornaments, there's special T-shirts and everything like that. What other? I'm sure I'm forgetting some other. There's a poster, if I'm not mistaken. Am I getting all the items that are available?
Sure. Yeah. So we have commemorative enamel pin sets of the different characters. We have a T-shirt, a sweatshirt. We have for people who have come to the festival, we have over 50 different characters and carolers that you can meet, and each one has a free collectible commemorative card, sort of like a baseball card that has their picture on one side and their biography on the other. So those are completely free, but then people who want to display them, we have for the first time ever these really beautiful card binders that allow you to kind of put your cards in collective sleeves and enjoy your collection as it grows over the years. And this year with our merchandise, it's really just special. And we really wanted to reflect the fact that Christmas traditions only exist in one place in the world, and that is Main Street in St. Charles, Missouri. So we wanted everything to reflect that. We have a very talented local artist named Brenna Jones who did these incredible illustrations, not only of our characters, but of different icons of Main Street, from the Katy train depot to gas lamps to the iconic gazebo. She did a real great job, and our merchandise really feels like us, and it's a great way to celebrate the holidays and St. Charles Christmas traditions all year round.
Yeah, and there's a lot. I mean, the setup too. We mentioned at the very beginning of the documentary that's showing on the lower floor of the visitor center, which has been kind of taken over by Father Time, which is a kind of a new display that we didn't have in years past. Talk a little bit about that if you could too.
Sure. Sure. So we have two different specialty exhibits to kind of celebrate this golden anniversary season. First, at the Foundry Arts Center. They are an art center, so they, a couple years ago, approached us and said, how can we celebrate the festival, but since we are an art center, have a very art-centric way of looking at it? So they had a really talented photographer come in and take these multi-exposure photographs of our characters that are really works of art, have them blown up real big, and then just a few different artifacts and costumes and costume renderings. Really, the art of putting the festival together is on display. And then at the Tourism Center, we have our documentary screening, but then we also have old photographs, old newspaper articles on display. And my favorite thing that's on display at the Visitor Center is that the first season of Christmas Traditions, way back in December of 1975, was the first season. It started by a local merchant named Archie Scott, pulling a Yule log down historic Main Street on a sled that he borrowed from a local girl. And so from those humble beginnings of that one night in 1975 where people dragged the Yule log down and sang carols around a bonfire, we actually have that original sled from that very first season of what was then known as the Christmas Walk, and that's on display. So people will really see the object with which the festival started. And then, like you mentioned, Father Time has his little area on the weekends where you can actually go in to his little lounge and write your favorite Christmas traditions memories. You can draw your favorite Christmas traditions characters, pin them up on the wall, and then at the end of our season, we're going to collect a random sampling of these memory cards and put them in a time capsule that's going to be buried our final day, Christmas Eve, underneath the official city Christmas tree. And then it will be opened in November of 2074 on the opening day of the 100th season of Christmas Traditions.
Wow. Man, that's... I don't know if I'm going to be around for that one or not, buddy. I don't know. It's a long way to go.
We're willing it into existence. We'll be a little grayer. We'll be a little slower, but I'm really excited to be able to leave something behind for the future because I know how much the event means to you. You know how much it means to me, and it's one of those things that this year has been pretty nostalgic, thinking of there have been over 500 people since its inception, performers, directors, designers, crew members who have been an instrumental part of putting this together. And it's just really an honor to be a part of something, to not only hold the mantle of something that's been around and has survived, many different, cycles of life for the past half century, and to know that 50 years from now, people will be looking back at what we're doing this year as a way of thinking of how they're going to celebrate for the 75th anniversary or the 100th anniversary.
And I don't mean to add extra pressure. First of all, Samantha Sherwin, I'm trying to keep up with the chats. Samantha Sherwin says, love you guys. Can't wait to bring the kids. So I'm sure we'll see her and her children down there this coming weekend. But not to put extra pressure on you, but this is the 50th. That's such a big thing. Where do you go from here? Have you already have the wheels started turning about what you're looking at for the 51st season?
They have been. We've been trying very hard this year because usually when we are planning a season, we are looking 2 or 3 years in advance. This year, I'm trying to remind myself every once in a while to kind of breathe and really take in this season so it doesn't slip through our fingers and we're like, oh, we were too, thinking far ahead to really enjoy the moment. But yeah, we're thinking of things in the future that we'd like to add, now especially that, we're having this very nostalgic year. It's, we're thinking of what characters we want to introduce in the future. How can we, celebrate some countries and cultures that haven't been experienced before? What are some other attractions and activities? So everything is percolating. We haven't, solidified anything yet, but it's the, it's sort of the nature of the beast of running the event that you are always kind of trying to get, 10 steps ahead and think of the future. And then, of course, we have our sister festival, our Halloween festival, Legends and Lanterns, that's turning 10 next year, which boggles my mind. So yeah, I mean, it's just really special, between that and you mentioned we have the Valentine's event that, we're very lucky what we have in St. Charles, not only the beautiful setting and the beautiful work of the performers that we are lucky to work alongside, but the fact that we have a city that is willing to take a chance on something that is kind of crazy, improv-based street theater and, mixing storytelling with history. It's really a privilege to work there, and we look forward to seeing what the future has in store.
Shannon Musler has requested an actual headless horseman for Legends and Lanterns. I'm not sure if we can make that happen or not.
Sister, let me tell you, that has been on my wish list. For seriously 7 years, I've wanted to have a headless horseman. So if anyone knows any headless horsemen out there, contact James and we'll get in touch.
We'll put something. I'm sure they'll make Ichabod's day. Ichabod Crane would love it if we actually had a real horseman out there.
Oh, I think I hear him having a conniption fit right now.
And I don't want to keep you too much longer. I promised you about 20 minutes or so. My last question before I let you go, because it's going to be right around the corner with this being such a short season. Kind of give people a little bit of a preview of what's coming up in February with your Once Upon a Valentine's Day Festival.
Yes, absolutely. So this is something we debuted last year. It's what we call a micro festival. So unlike Legends and Lanterns and Christmas traditions that run about a month, this is just a 2-day thing. It's the weekend before Valentine's Day. And the fun thing with this event is, Valentine's Day can have many emotions for many people, and we came up with an event that we think kind of runs the gamut. So Once Upon a Valentine is dedicated 50% to people who adore Valentine's Day and 50% to people who are anti-Valentine's Day. So people will go around, they'll get to meet pro-Valentine's characters like Cupid, and we have a singing group called the Conversation Hearts, and we have Romeo and Juliet, and we have Casanova and Femme Fatale and the Queen of Hearts. But we also have, on the anti-side, we have a group of, St. Valentine's Day Massacre gangsters. We have the 6 Wives of Henry VIII, whose, feelings on romance is a little shaky.
Sure.
We have Miss Havisham from Great Expectations, where you can burn the name of someone who has wronged you romantically in a big fire pit. So it's a lot of fun. As everything we do, it's free. You get to collect some nice souvenir vintage postcards. And it's a real nice way to kick off the Valentine's season.
If we're gonna do burning of names of people who have been romantically wronged by someone, I'm gonna need a bigger fire pit. I'm just saying.
All right, we'll start collecting the wood from the chestnut pit at Christmas traditions now, and put it aside for you.
Perfect. And if people want to find out more about the festival, I know the City of St. Charles has been one of my premier sponsors since the beginning, so they probably already know the website. But why don't you give it to them again anyway, and also tell them if they want to keep up with you, where they can find you online.
Oh, my goodness. Well, what an honor. So starting with St. Charles, you can go to discoverstcharles.com. If you want to know specifically more about Christmas traditions, we have stcharleschristmas.com. We're also on Facebook. We're very fancy, so just look up St. Charles Christmas Traditions on Facebook. And if you're looking for me, I am on the Instagram at Blue Man Coop. So for people who know my alter ego at the festival, they get the symbolism of the name Blue Man Coop.
Very cool. I so appreciate you coming on. I apologize for not having you on last week so we could kind of give people the push into the season, especially with it being a shorter season. But you know what they say, leave them wanting more, right?
Absolutely. And we still got plenty of time. It's not a problem.
Well, I appreciate it very much. Have a good rest of your night, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you, Mr. Enstall, and thanks everyone in the chat.
Thank you all. There he goes, Ryan Cooper. We'll put links to those in the show notes, of course. And as always, of course, we tell everyone go to discoverstcharles.com for all the main landing page for this and the other festivals that he mentioned, and just for all the stuff that they do out there in St. Charles, because there's always something happening, because they are historically awesome since 1769. And as I always say, it's an historically good time. We're going to take a very quick commercial break. We're going to come back, and we're going to have my interview with Dave Annable talking about Season 2 of Lioness on Paramount+. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550 KTRS. Please stand by.
Trail army ants, we go marching along. We are bad, we are boss, we've got guts that swish and squash. Army ants, we go marching along.
Army ants. and bugs and things are here in a never-ending battle for domination, where Traposaurus fights off evil beetle, while gravel guts and bloodstone confront the buzzing menace of wicked cricket. It's rocks versus bugs, with mortals as a tasty prize. Where will the evil end? Can robots, soldiers, or heroes stop them? They're on the move and ready for action. Rocks and bugs and things from Ideal.
Security and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered financial advisor, member FINRA, SIPC.
Hi, this is Adrian Huff. It's a Nightcaller in X-Men 97. And Hatham Kenway at your service in Assassin's Creed 3, as well as a bunch of other things. And you are listening to Geek to Me Radio.
If you missed my interview with Adrian Huff, go to geektomeradio.com, click on the celebrity interview tab, and you can look him up there. You can find him along with all my interviews based on celebrity for that way. If you just want to go in chronological order. And of course, if you're watching this right now on YouTube, do me a huge favor. Click on the subscribe button so that we know you're locked in, and hit the little bell. That way you get a notification every time we go live with a new show like this, whenever Joey V's in studio with me and we're doing video. That way you'll get that notification and you can join us live like so many people in the chat have. Chance, I'm sorry, Mira Sorvino is not live. It is a pre-recorded interview. I caught up with her at Days of the Dead. We're going to have that in the next segment. And Patrick McCullough, woo indeed. I'm very excited to have all this stuff. Very excited to have Joey V in studio. Very excited to still be doing this show here in the end of 2024 into 2025. Who knew it would last this long when I started? We'll make sure we tell you about our official comic book sponsor, Bugs Comics and Games. If you are wanting to get into comic books, maybe you're excited. You just saw Venom 3. If you liked it, good for you. Or maybe you know all this cool stuff's coming out. You got the new Star Wars Skeleton Crew. You're wanting to find out more about these and where their comic book origins lie. Head over to Bugs Comics and Games on Bryan Road in O'Fallon, Missouri. Ask for Larry. Chances are he'll be there because he runs the place and he knows more about comics than I could ever possibly hope to know. He's like your own personal comic concierge. So say, hey, I want the first appearance of this character. I want to find out more about Venom. If you want to get the first appearance of Venom, it's going to cost you a little bit. But the great thing about Bugs Comics and Games is they've got comics to fit any price range if you want. If you want to go in and you want to throw down $1,000 for the first appearance of like one of the characters like Black Panther, or if you want the first Thing versus Hulk fight, he's got it. If you're wanting to just go in and pick up a few comics because you're not really sure where to start, there's the dollar bins that you can go through and get a bunch of comics. If you want to start your collection and maybe you have been out of the game for a while and you want to get back in, you can delve into the new comics. Start a pull list. That way you don't miss a comic book. There was a comic book that I was wanting to get. Luckily, I told Larry to put it on my pull list. So I go in there on Thursdays because I can't make it out on New Comic Book Day. He's got it in this drawer, put aside for me, all nice and neat and pristine because it's sold out. So I'm so glad I did that. So if you haven't done it already, start a pull list with Larry. Just talk to him and say, these are the comics I want. He'll get them before they ever go onto the rack for public consumption. So you've got them put aside. You don't have to worry if you can't get there on Wednesday. That's fine. Also, here's a little tip too. Join the Avengers Club. That way you start saving money on your new issues, your back issues, whatever it is you're buying there, so you don't have to sacrifice your hobby in these economic times when people are cutting back everywhere they can. Bugs Comics and Games on Facebook. Give his page a like. That'll make him very happy, and he'll know that you heard about it here on Geek to Me Radio. Or tell him when you go in the store, hey, I heard about you on Geek to Me Radio. That will also make him happy. It makes me happy too. And finally, Instagram.com/BugsComicsAnd If you're looking for something, check his Instagram page out because he's constantly posting things. And if you see something you like that maybe your local comic book shop doesn't have, say, I want that. He'll send you a PayPal invoice. You pay the invoice. He sends the comics straight to your door, shipped securely, and there you go. Bugs Comics and Games. Very proud to have them as the official comic book sponsor here on Geek to Me Radio. Chance Nostalgic Pod Blast. Fantastic Four 12 is the first Thing Hulk battle. It's their first meeting. I call it first battle. Fantastic Four 25-26 because that's that 2-issue knockdown dragout. And it's one of my favorite comic book covers ever where the Hulk's just kind of towering over the Thing. But I do love that cover from Fantastic Four number 12 as well, where Hulk's kind of hiding behind the stalactites. So fantastic stuff all around. Let's get to my next interview. Dave Annable, Season 2 of Lioness on Paramount Plus. Here we go.
Right now we're talking with actor Dave Annable. Lioness season 2 is now out on Paramount Plus. He's joining the cast. Zoe Saldana's husband. I mean, that's a role any guy would like to play. Dave, how are you?
You know, I was writing letter after letter, and finally, you know, it was answered. Yeah, I mean, incredibly grateful and lucky, and obviously Zoe is just, you know, beautiful. But I mean, she's just one of the best actresses I've worked across in my life, and it's really such a special gift to sort of you know, stand across from her on this show for sure.
And that's saying something because you've worked with some phenomenal talent in your time. I mean, everyone from Sally Field, Callista Flockhart, Kevin Costner, even here you've got Nicole Kidman and Morgan Freeman. As an actor who you know, does TV and film and everything, that's got to be incredible to be opposite some of these absolutely talented people.
Oh yeah, you know, there's no way around it. I've had so many pinch me moments where, you know, I'm standing across from, you know, for example, Nicole Kidman in the first season. We had a great little scene together, and you know, I'm standing across from her, and you know, Dave is thinking, oh my God, that's Nicole Kidman. And the great part about that was, you know, she has this superiority. She's got this sort of air about her as the character as well as Caitlin. So I was really able to use that awe as my character Neil, because you know, I couldn't fake it. I'm not that good. You know, it was very cool.
I find it fascinating too. You've played so many different roles. I mean, you've got roles like here in Lioness, but then you've got roles like in No Sleep Till Christmas. You've really gotten to kind of play a nice gamut of types and characters. Do you kind of find yourself resonating with certain types of stories more than others? Do you feel more comfortable doing comedy or drama or suspense?
You know, well, thank you. Yeah, I've been fortunate enough, you know, you do this, and I'm super grateful to be working for, you know, 20 years in the business now, and played all sorts of characters. But, you know, I think for me, you know, Neil is closest to home. He's married to a Latina with 2 daughters, and that's exactly what I'm going through. Married to a Latina with 2 daughters. So, you know, like I said, I'm not that good. And, you know, it's really typecast for this part. No, it's really, you know, I just really enjoy being able to play all different sorts of characters, wear different hats. And I've said before, my absolute favorite part of this job is really learning a little about a lot of different things, right? About a lot of different jobs, and you putting on different hats, and you know, sort of playing different characters, which you have to use your imagination, but then also dig a little bit of you, because every character starts and ends with you. So it's really been just such a ride. And you know, no one in my family were actors or are actors, so I sort of, you know, I fell into this, and I'm lucky to be here, and you know, let's just keep grinding.
It's always interesting because we talk to on the show different actors or people who started, they've got family in Hollywood, either their dad was a director or a producer, and they kind of, you know, were exposed to the business. You not having that, what was it for you that kind of triggered, hey, this is what I want to do with my life?
Well, don't judge me. It was a very pretty girl who tried out for Macbeth in college. And I was like, oh, that's going to be a way to hang out with her. Maybe I'll try out for Macbeth. And, you know, I ended up getting the role, and she didn't, you know, and then I really, being on stage and connecting and making the audience feel something was, you know, as a middle child, that was everything to me, you know, sort of getting that extra attention. So I fell in love with it there, and then, you know, have been very fortunate enough from where my path led to it. You know, I had a semester left of college, and basically I answered this hometown paper, you know, calling all actors and models, come to the Holiday Inn, which nowadays, like, whoops, that seemed like a real sketchy thing.
Right.
But it was, yeah, it was a legitimate thing. And my sister took me, and basically I made this callback and got an agent in New York, and I was commuting by bus for 8 hours for, you know, like a Burger King audition for commercials, and ended up booking 6 national commercials my first year. And was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot. Dropped out of college. My mom hated it, which now as a parent I get. You know, she was saying curse words. I didn't know you. So it was great.
You mentioned your wife earlier, Odette. You've been fortunate enough to star in a couple projects with her. We mentioned No Sleep Until Christmas, and then obviously you kind of were opposite each other on Walker. Is that higher pressure or less pressure to be acting opposite the person you spend your days and nights with?
Well, it's like it's basically couples therapy, in real life, because no matter what issue you have, you got to drop it once you get to work. And, that's a skill set that we've really enjoyed learning. It's not always the case, but we have so much fun together. And, we are and we're just great friends. And I think that makes it a lot of fun to act across from her. And then, I have a huge talent crush on her, so I feel fortunate every time I get to share the screen with her. And we've just had a blast. I hope we keep doing it in our careers.
Well, next time you see her, tell her that one of the people who interviewed you today absolutely loved her in Supergirl. She was fantastic.
Oh, she was so good, wasn't she? Rain.
Yeah,
she was so good. I was really proud of her. That was good work.
Yeah, to be able to play that role between going from a good guy and then just dipping into that villain aspect, it was brilliant. So just pass that along to her.
Well, listen, it was a part she was born to play.
There you go.
Coming from her husband.
And I want to say too, because there's all these things you've done, and it's almost daunting when you look back on your career and you've worked with all these people, but you've got so much of your career ahead of you. What are some bucket list items for you as an actor? People you want to work with, projects you want to be involved in?
It's funny. I'm such a sports guy that I really always wanted to be in a sports movie. And I think I've kind of aged myself out of the player. So, maybe now a coach or an organization. I love sports movies, and that's something that I, would always love to do. But, I've really been able to check off quite a few boxes, and working with Taylor Sheridan is certainly top.
Sure.
He's just the best in the business right now, and the way he writes relationships, and Neil and Joe's relationship on Lioness is so real and authentic and beautiful and challenging, and I think he's really hit a home run there. And again, playing across from Zoe and having these scenes and this dialogue and this pull, of service and family life has really just been very special to me.
And I know, if I'm not mistaken, you studied under the Meisner technique. What are some of the things you did when you're researching the character, when you're getting into Neil's headspace for Lioness? What are some of the prep that you did to inhabit this particular role?
Well, I got to sit down and speak with Dr. Russell Ward, who is a surgical oncologist in pediatrics, which is exactly what I do. Because, my imagination can only take me so far, and YouTube can only take me so far.
Right.
So I was able and fortunate enough to sit down with him a few times and really sort of ask what the day-to-day is like. And if you have a tough day, or if you, God forbid, you lose a patient, what is that like when you come home? And, it's so rewarding, like I said, to learn a little about a lot of things. And, my hat's off to all the medical professionals out there, who are just grinding every day and going through struggles that are hidden from us everyday folks. And, I really, all the respect in the world. And, it's a very, very great part to play for sure.
And again, if you're just now listening, Lioness is streaming on Paramount Plus. This is the second season, so make sure you check it out, starring Zoe Saldana, Nicole Kidman, Morgan Freeman, and Dave Annable. Thank you so much for your time, Dave. It's been an absolute delight to have you on.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
There he goes. Check out Lioness Season 2 on Paramount Plus. We're going to take another brief commercial break. We're going to come back, and we've got my interview with Mira Sorvino. Plus, Joey Viesga and I are going to review a couple of movies if we have time here in the very last bit, which I'm sure we will, because I'm looking at the time now, so I'm not sure why I said if we had time, because we'll have time. We're going to do movie reviews. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550 KTRS. Please stand by.
They'll return almost like new to their original forms. So if you want to hatch up some fun, you can crack open a Manglore. The Manglores, Manglore Demon, Manglore Dragon, and Manglizard, each sold separately from Ideal.
Airlandia, the Air Raiders command post prepares for the Tyrant's Dragonwind attack. Hit it with everything we've got! Thunderclaw, launch! Remote missiles, flare! Hold on to your helmets, men!
Launch glider! Fire! Good shot! Launch claw! Launch storm dagger! Their army's at the command post! Rock slide!
Air Raiders command post and claw and Tyrant's Dragonwind, each complete with figures.
Mad scientist!
I've done it! It's dissect an alien, and it's...
Gross!
You take his insides out and put them back in. Too gross.
Yeah!
That's disgusting.
He's a real slime bucket.
Yuck.
Dissect an alien. Watch for time freaks and...
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
A rough weekend for those of us in the Geek Nerd community. This was the weekend we celebrated Kevin Conroy's. This would have been his 69th birthday had he been with us still this past Saturday. It's 2 years ago that we lost him. Then, obviously, this would have been also the birthday of artist and writer Keith Giffen. Worked on Justice League America, Legion of Superheroes, and so many more. Fantastically talented gentleman that we lost. And if that didn't just do enough damage to your childhood and your heart, we lost Morgan Lofting this weekend, who is the voice of the Baroness on G.I. Joe. That's what I knew her from. A lot of voiceover credits. Just a kind, wonderful woman. I'm so glad I made the trip to LA back in March to go to Transformers Con because she was there, and I got to meet her. I got to thank her for her work. I got to have her sign something for me. But it's just, I cannot encourage enough. If there's a Comic Con coming up, go. Don't hold back. Go see the people who gave you your childhood. Go see the comic book artists and the writers and the voice actors and thank them for what they've done. And it's just, I'm always so glad that I met these people before they passed away. So it's just one of those things where we never know when our number's up. So now we've got Morgan up there joining Keith and Kevin. And it's just, it's a rough weekend when stuff like that, it all kind of conglomerates at once, but it is what it is. Not that I meant to have that note bring us into this, but speaking of Comic-Con, Two Rivers Comic-Con coming up May of 2025. It's over Memorial Day weekend right here in beautiful historic St. Charles. We're going to have a lot of fun. This is a Comic-Con for fans, by fans. It is fan-focused, family-friendly. We are going to have Mark Bagley is going to be there, one of my favorite Spider-Man artists. Rick Burchett, who is a fantastic three-time Eisner Award-nominated artist. He did the art for a lot of our posters you're going to see, and he will be there as well. If you're listening, Rick, I hope your recovery continues to speed right along. I just got a text from him earlier this week, and he seems to be doing well after an extensive surgery, so I'm glad to hear that. We've got Chuck Patton coming in, who is a fantastic artist as well. Just a bunch of artists and writers are coming in. And if you're a Justice League fan, we got the voice cast of the Justice League. Phil Lamar, Susan Eisenberg, Maria Canals-Barrera, among others to be named coming in. Plus, Dan Reba and Alan Burnett. Dan Reba is an incredible storyboard artist and a director and animator. He's done a lot of fantastic work on a lot of shows that I'm sure you'll recognize if you go look him up on IMDb. And he's going to be there. We're going to try to get a hold of him ahead of time so we make sure if you want a commissioned piece done by him, that he has time to work on those, and he'll be doing those. He has a lot of his art for sale. He's coming with Heroic Fine Art along with Alan Burnett, and you'll be at a booth in the Foundry Art Center. So make sure you get your tickets to riverscomiccon.com. That's 2riverscomiccon.com, the number 2 Rivers Comic Con. The tickets are on sale. If you are wanting to set up as a vendor or an artist, we still have booths and spaces available, but they're going quickly. I'm very, very pleased to say a lot of people are already signed up. A lot of people already have their spaces locked in, but we still have some left. So go to the website, check out the vendors tab. There's more information for that there. And if you have any questions, send an email to 2 Rivers Comic Con. There's a little link right there as well for that. 2riverscomiccon.com. We're going to bring the fun to St. Louis. We're going to have our own homegrown Comic Con. Very pleased to be bringing this to you, courtesy of a lot of our fine sponsors who you'll see on the website as well. 2riverscomiccon.com. TV.com. A quick interview with Academy Award winning actress Mira Sorvino coming at you now.
Days of the Dead in Chicago, talking with the legendary Mira Sorvino. It's so nice to finally meet you.
Yes, you too.
And I was looking at your body of work you've done. You don't seem to have a wheelhouse. Some sci-fi, some horror, some comedy, lots of drama. What kind of roles do you feel the most comfortable doing?
Comedy. I
Really?
actually love comedy the best. But recently, I did this comedy horror show, Shining Veil, which was a mix of genres, and I got to play 3 characters in it with Courtney Cox and Greg Kinnear, and I loved that experience so much. And actually now it has moved from Stars, and in the new year it's going to be on Max.
Oh, wow,
So I
okay.
think a lot more people will see it, because I feel like it kind of was a sleepy little, very well reviewed show, but not that many people saw it before, and now they're going to have 2 seasons of it on Max. So I'm very excited for people to discover Shining Veil.
And there's a lot of shows that are like that. They'll swap over to a different streaming service and they'll get renewed for another season. Is there any talk of that being coming back?
I mean, I think we'll see how the audience responds to it on the new platform. I mean, certainly that would be all of our hope, because we loved working on it. It was a joy to come to work for Jeff Astroff and Sharon Horgan, the creators of it. But we'll see.
And that was going to be one of my questions, is because now with Courtney Cox, Lisa Kudrow, you work with 1/3 of the cast of Friends. Is there one of the cast who you're still like on my bucket list? I got to work with, someone.
I mean, I love them all. I'm very sad to, at Matthew Perry's passing. I knew him a little bit, hung out with him a little bit when I was much younger, and he was a very, very sweet person, very smart, very funny in real life, and it's just sort of a tragedy what happened to him.
So many actors have done, like, you have TV and movies. Do you have more of a preference? Do you like just the schedule for the TV shows? More of you like the longer projects?
Well, I used to be exclusively a movie actress, and then, people started crossing over more back and forth between movies and TV, and now everybody does both, except maybe Tom Cruise. There's a few people that maybe don't, but like we see all the great work that like Harrison Ford or Nicole Kidman do on television. So for me, it has gotten kind of interesting to do the episodic shows like over a season to see how the character changes. That for me is actually artistically very, very fulfilling, to get to play the person longer than 1 hour and a half and see how she grows and develops. So that I do actually now like the long form of television a lot. And I like being in, like, especially stuff that is, sorry, there were people. There were, like, the last few shows I've done have all shot in Los Angeles, which is a huge luxury to be able to live at home and be with my family and be with my kids and go to work.
Right.
So that's a nice thing.
With having started out, you were doing plays in your backyard and everything like that, and then go to Harvard for Asian studies, it almost seems like you could have zigged into a completely different life. Was Hollywood always the kind of what you knew you wanted to do?
No, I wasn't sure. I mean, I wanted to be an actress, but I also had a lot of other interests. And honestly, if Tiananmen Square had not happened while I was still in college, right after I had returned from spending 8 months in Beijing, I probably would have gone back to China after graduating and maybe never would have ended up an actress. Wow. I don't know.
The path not taken. And I know you said your husband has a project coming up soon.
Yes, so my husband has a project that he's starring in. It's out right now. It came out like 3 days ago. It's on Apple TV and Amazon Prime Video. It's called Daft State. My husband Christopher Backus is the star of it. Sky Marshall is also his co-star in it. And it's a very interesting sort of psychological horror thriller about a man sort of tortured by his past, and it's incredibly beautifully shot, and I'm now an executive producer on it. But wow. I did not act in it, and he is extraordinary in it, and he's gotten some rave reviews for it. If you go to my Instagram, you'll see there's like a review for it there, and then People Magazine did like a little piece on the both of us. But he's really, really great in it. It was shot in Nebraska, and it's just a very unusual psychological thriller. It's for people that love the horror genre but want something new and different, and it's not like a splatter show. It's an interior mental horror,
Very cerebral.
But it's beautiful too. It's very cathartic and emotional, and you see him go through some stuff that you don't usually see men able to be that vulnerable on camera. I mean, he's super vulnerable on camera, and you really watch him as his mental state deteriorates over the story over his grief and guilt, and it's beautiful.
I'm curious, outside...
And you know who scored the movie? Mike McCready from Pearl Jam.
Oh my God! Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
My husband, sent it to him and said, Mike, do you want to write the music for this? And he said yes after seeing it. So he loved it, and so it's pretty great. Yeah.
And she mentioned her Instagram. It's at Mira Sorvino on Instagram and Twitter.
Yes, and it's with the check mark. It's just my name and the check mark. Yeah.
And with curious acting, obviously, I'm curious when you go to a movie or watching a television series. Are you able to shut off the acting part of your brain and just enjoy a series? Because I know some people like to be like, well, nitpick.
Like when I watch one?
Yeah.
Oh, I just try and zone out and just enjoy. Like right now I'm watching all 3 seasons of Killing Eve and I'm enjoying it. Honestly, sometimes it gets too violent for me, and I just turn away while the hit woman is killing everybody. But I come back to it as soon as she's done the deed. I'm squeamish, even though I know it's all fake. That's the funny thing. I really don't suspend my disbelief. Like I know it's all fake blood and props, and they're not real knives, and people are not really dying. But I find it. I get scared. Like from the time I was little, my friend, when I was 12, took me to see The Fog and Scanners, and I couldn't sleep for 3 months after that. So I just have a low tolerance for high gore kind of thing. But which is funny that I'm here at Days of the Dead, where most of the participants absolutely don't have that problem. But
yeah. And you got a line, so I don't want to keep going longer. It's an absolute delight to talk to you, and great to meet you. We'll follow you on the social medias. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Little time with Mira Sorvino is better than no time with Mira Sorvino. I said I had other questions for her. I didn't get to talk about her working with Robin Williams. I didn't get to ask her too much about Romeo and Michelle, which I got to say, I know Chance mentioned earlier, that's a guilty pleasure movie for me. It's so quotable. I love Janine Garofalo's character in that. So if you haven't seen Mira Sorvino and Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion, then go check that one out. Speaking of movies, we've got Joey V's going to tell us about some of the movies that he has seen recently. You had 2 in particular you wanted to discuss.
It's a big Thanksgiving weekend, and some people are trying to give it a portmanteau. Do you remember when there was
French.
Barbie versus Oppenheimer? We called that Barbenheimer. And then when Saw 10 and Paw Patrol came out, they called that Saw Patrol. That didn't take as well.
No.
And now it's Gladiator 2 and Wicked. What do you think that one is called?
Wickadator, I would hope.
Nope. You pervert. It's Glicked. Glicked is what they called it.
Sounds like a Martin Short character. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And then you know who snuck in at the end there? Moana 2. I don't know why, but Moana waited until Tuesday to come out. Wait, Tuesday? Yeah, something like that.
Wow.
So it's crazy that this big movie-going weekend is probably one of the biggest of the entire year so far. Gladiator 2, which I have seen. Moana 2, I've also seen. But Wicked, I didn't get to go to that screening. I think the one they had here in St. Louis was on a Sunday at 2 p.m., and I was on vacation. Did you get to see any of those 3 films?
No.
Oh my goodness, it's going to be me. I'm so nervous. Well, first off, it's child abuse if you take your child to see Moana 2. It is absolute rubbish.
Is it really?
It is so bad. My goodness. Now, what happened was it was supposed to be an 8-episode series on Disney Plus that was just relegated to the trash can of Disney Plus. And they said, you know what? Let's make a little bit of money with this. Let's shove those 8 episodes together into something that's maybe a movie with all these dumb extra characters that are imbeciles that don't really have any talent or use, and you don't really remember their name. And let's not get Lin-Manuel Miranda back either and have the worst songs that are completely unmemorable. Moana 2 was so bad, I actually had doubts whether I even liked the first one. But luckily, Moana 1 is on 24/7 on the cable right now, and I watched it again over the Thanksgiving weekend. And it is, in fact, an incredible movie. But Moana 2, it is convoluted. There's no way a child could walk out of that and tell me any song that they remembered or what the plot was. And there's not even a villain for Moana. She fights the weather is the big thing that happens. And it's a lot more perverted than I think it should be. There's gross out humor. There's, I don't know how, this is AM radio, this is KTRS, so I should keep it classy, but The Rock jokes with his tattoo after it gives him a purple nurple. So there's purple nurple. The tattoos, they come to life. He armpit farts it to the back of his body to put it in timeout. There is questionable looking creatures. There's a bearded clam and some fleshlight looking creatures.
That's our time, folks. Good night.
and there's an actor in there named Alan Tudyk, which I do not agree with, who plays a chicken that The Rock likes to choke. I don't know if you're familiar with.
Oh my gosh!
Why The Rock would be choking a chicken in a kids movie, but
well, maybe he cooks the chicken because they always used to say, "Do you smell what The Rock is cooking?"
Exactly.
So
I would avoid Moana 2, but if it's free babysitting or, cheap babysitting for you and your kid and they're climbing all over the seats and you're not paying attention, then I guess it's fine. It still looks pretty, though. That's what I guess is important for a kid who's 4 years old, kind of looking at the screen, and they say, those are colors. So if your kid can recognize colors, then I highly recommend it. I gave it 1.5 out of 5 stars.
Ouch. Chance says the Moana did well. It kicked Wicked's box off his butt, though. So I guess people are taking their kids to see it, and they're making that money regardless.
We need to call child services on all of these parents and make them rethink what they were doing. No, they were duped. It was Disney's fault. They have shareholders. It's this long string of making live-action remakes of movies that were successful. Do you know there's currently Moana, the live-action movie, filming right now? The Rock is in some bodysuit with extra muscles on top of his rippling muscles. And I don't know if he's locked into that thing because he has peeing on set problems. That guy just pees in water bottles. If he's in the suit and he can't get out, I don't know what that thing smells like day to day. If they have to make a new one or something. We'll have to ask Tom Savini, a friend that you met.
There you go. Yeah. We'll find out. Gosh, but what about Gladiator then?
Gladiator 2, I did not rewatch the first one. I remember loving it when it came out in, I believe, 2001, Best Picture, Best Actor, and so I did not rewatch it. I think it's actually a really good movie for not rewatching it. It fills you in, keeps you up to date with everything you need to know about what's been going on, and it is pure spectacle. Any animal you can think of, they throw into that Coliseum. I don't know if you've seen the trailer.
No.
But there's a rhino fight that happens in the Coliseum.
No way.
And the animals that they bring in just escalate from there. It's I don't know how realistic this movie is, but there's a lot of gore and violence, and it was almost like a horror film. I liked it on that level. I don't really care about the lore of Maximus and his son and his son's son and his wife's son and all that and whose wife killed who. I don't care about that. But just watching the gore, it was really fun. And 2.5 hours went by quick. It was paced well. I'd recommend Gladiator 2.
I don't recall the original being gory.
Yeah, there's Denzel just chewing scenery. I could see him getting the Oscar nomination, even though this film isn't that great. It doesn't deserve Best Picture, but Denzel is so much fun in this. He's almost like that Training Day character. He's like, oh, my man, that sort of big Denzel version of him. You're going to love him. He's a slave trader who picks out the slaves and then puts them up in the fight and then brings them up through the minor leagues into the major league gladiator fights.
It was Oliver Reed played that character in the first one. So a similar character.
And he's hilarious in it, in a movie that isn't really cohesive with the characters. Pedro Pascal, he's doing a big old-timey accent like, I am the man who serves the king, which maybe is to hide his Spanish accent or whatever country he's from. And other people, like Denzel, he's like, my man. And then, they're all over the place. Huh. But there's these two twins that rule the kingdom like Caligula, and they are bonkers doing orgies and letting monkeys make their own rules and doing drugs and stuff. So it's a whole lot of fun, but if you like the lore of Gladiator, it may be a little too off the wall for you.
Okay. So you'd recommend Gladiator, or you would not recommend Moana 2?
I'd recommend Gladiator 2, and Moana 2 can suck an egg. One of those chicken eggs. I don't know who lays eggs, but I think it's the chickens.
All right, so no from Moana 2 and yes to Gladiator 2.
And then Wicked I haven't seen, but I'm against it because it's the same length as the musical, but it's only part 1.
Yeah, and I have not seen it either because, like I said, as you know, I come here on Sundays. The screening was on a Sunday at 2. I didn't have time to get here by 4 o'clock when my shift starts, so I had to pass. But I'm against the singing in the movie theaters for just,
The Rock said it's okay if you buy a ticket, you can sing in the theater. And we're both anti that.
That's right, because if you're paying for a ticket, you pay the same as the people who want to sing. If you want to sing, stream it at home and sing along with it. That's great. I paid because I want to go see the movie in a theater, and I don't want to hear you singing. I want to hear the people on screen singing.
I want to hear the professionals.
Exactly.
I mean, if we're at the Muni and they're doing the national anthem, that's your chance to sing.
Right.
But you keep it pipe down the rest of that musical, buddy.
Then it's covered. No one else has to hear it anyway because everyone else is singing it. It's the Muni. It's all outdoors. Joey V, thank you as always for your movie expertise. We appreciate it. Thank you to Ryan Cooper for joining us to talk about 50th anniversary of St. Charles Christmas traditions. Thank you to Dave Annable. Thank you to Mira Sorvino. Thank you to all of you who watched and who listened to the chats and chimed in. We appreciate that very much. And until next week, my friends.
It's not in the way you watch the Flash. It's not in the way you love Scotty Young art. It's not in the way you play Mario Kart. It's not in the way you look when you make Game of Thrones references. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you, Ancient Road. Good night.
The Big 550, KTRS St. Louis.